For this mini lesson, students will be looking at Tanya Bolden's book, Beautiful Moon, A Child's Prayer. In this children's picture book, the main character is a little boy. He wakes up in the middle of the night after he remembered that he forgot to say his nightly prayers. He looks out at the people in the town and shows compassion for all of those who may need prayers. He thinks about the homeless, the hungry, and many more, and prays for them. The lesson objective has students being able to determine the author's purpose of writing the text and analyzing how it's evident in Beautiful Moon, A Child's Prayer with textual evidence. Two standards are used here. One of them is assess how point of view or purpose shapes the content and styles of a text, and the other is about reading closely to determine what the text says to make inferences from it, and to also cite textual evidence. Students will be asked to determine the author's purpose because it's a skill that they need to master in order to be career and college ready. The skill was paired with this text because there's a clear message within it and students will be able to use their skills. The author's purpose describes the reason why the author wrote the book that the reader is reading. The most commonly seen author's purposes are to persuade, to inform, and to entertain. The teacher will be able to quickly model the skill for the students. The teacher should use Jack and the Beanstalk as it's a well-known story. The teacher will ask questions like, did the author try to make me laugh? Did the author want to tell me a story? Did the author give me facts? Did the author try to teach me something? Did the author try to convince me? Or did the author want to change my opinion? The first two describe stories. If they say yes, the first two describe stories where the author wants to entertain. If they say yes to the second two, the author is trying to inform. And if they said yes to the last two, the author is trying to persuade. Based off of that example, the author wanted to entertain in Jack and the Beanstalk. The reader should have responded that the author wanted to make them laugh, so they're definitely entertaining. Magic beans, giant beanstalk, all those shenanigans that Jack gets into can be pretty funny and can make the reader laugh. The reader can also say that the second question is a yes because the whole story is a story itself. It's a once upon a time, it's a fairy tale, and it is telling what is going on throughout the whole story. So the actual lesson begins with the teacher reminding the students what the author's purpose means. That will be used in a PowerPoint setting with the anchor chart that was shown previously in this presentation. The teacher will share out different types of genres, for example, fairy tales, and that it's commonly seen paired with entertaining. They might also share that informational books are to inform, like nonfiction. Teacher will then use that quick modeling with Jack and the Beanstalk in order to activate their students' understanding. Students will then flow into a warm-up using a text that they've already read, the story of Ruby Bridges. Students will then work on asking questions to either themselves or a partner, the same questions that the teacher used, and they'll be able to determine the author's purpose. Then they'll need to find at least two pieces of textual evidence that supports their thinking. They can jot them down in their reader's notebook, on Post-its, on paper, whatever works best for them, and then they can share out, and then the class will determine what the author's purpose was for that text. They should decide that this text is to inform, as it's a nonfiction text. Finally, the teacher will read Beautiful Moon, A Child's Prayer by Tanya Bolden. Students will need to jot down the elements of the text that they see and what corresponding author's purpose they feel is appropriate. Afterwards, they'll pair up to figure out what it actually was they'll share out with each other, and they'll need to find two pieces of evidence to support their answer. As the teacher reads, it's very helpful to use a document camera to project the images. It's very helpful for students' comprehension if they can see what's going on. After the teacher's reading, they'll circulate around and monitor students working. It's possible that struggling students may need some help, so the teacher can reinforce directly with them. The mini lesson will be seen as effective if students are able to determine that this text, that the author's purpose of this text is to entertain. They should be able to use the appropriate questions to determine this and be able to use any textual support that they feel supports that it is to entertain. It might have some various answers from there, but as long as it supports that it is a text to entertain, then it will be seen as effective.